French President Emmanuel Macron is urging Beijing to help stop Russia's war in Ukraine.
He met with his Chinese counterpart, Xi Jinping, today as part of a three-day state visit to China. Macron told Xi that he is counting on him to, quote, bring Russia back to reason over its invasion.
For more on this, let's have a chat now with Andrew Small. He's a senior transatlantic fellow at the German Marshall Fund, joining us from Berlin today. Andrew, great to have you with us. How significant, from your point of view, is this trip, given what appears to be a deteriorating relationship between China and the West?
I think it's an important moment for Europe and Europe-China relations. This is several years since Macron was in Beijing. It's the first trip for the Commission president that he's brought with him, Ursula von der Leyen. And I think the sense, particularly after Xi Jinping's visit to Moscow the other week, is that there is a rapidly deteriorating relationship between China and Europe, China and the West, and real concerns about how much further this could go. I think one of the main things that he wanted to do and that the Commission president wanted to do on this visit was make some red lines pretty clear that providing lethal aid to Russia would cause major damage to the relationship with Europe. And there's a lot of anxiety at the moment that this deepening relationship between Beijing and Moscow is something that's really going to translate China into something that looks more like an enabler to security threats in Europe. Macron, as you suggested, may have had some slightly higher hopes to try and get some movement from China on the Ukraine question, but there's very little indication, judging by the statements that we've heard on this visit, that he's made any progress on this.
Well, there was one thing that I think stood out to us. President Xi saying that he's willing to speak with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, something Zelensky has publicly asked for. Do you expect that this is actually going to happen? And if so, do you expect that it could result in any substantial changes?
So there were briefings that this might happen after Xi Jinping's visit to Moscow. I think there was a bit of a sense that he might need to speak to Zelensky to provide a bit of political cover for this trip. I think he's under a certain amount of pressure on this at the moment because China's trying to position itself as a peace actor, come out with this 12-point position paper. But at the same time, it's now more than a year. He's been unwilling to go ahead with this call. And I think with pressure building on him, he's nonetheless been willing to kind of hold that back. And I think certainly he'll try and look for a moment when he can gain political capital from doing it. But he's also showing a willingness to resist pressure and pretty clearly signaling as well which side he's on and that he doesn't actually need to speak to Zelensky. And I think that was very much the message that came out from the trip to Moscow.
So then
and if he does speak to him, I don't really expect there's going to be very much progress that's going to be made. China's not really positioning itself and looking to do anything that will contribute towards peace. To do that, they would be required essentially to put pressure on Moscow, and Xi Jinping's made clear he's not willing to do that.
Yeah. And that was going to be my final point, Andrew. You know, with what they've released in this plan, there doesn't appear to be an acknowledgement of what's necessary for peace. And so is there a middle ground, you know, especially before Zelensky speaks to Xi? What would that be?
Exactly as you say, it's not really a peace plan. It's rather 12 points that also include things like abandoning Cold War mentality. It's not something that provides the basis for progress. But I think what you've seen from Zelensky, and to a certain extent what you saw from Macron and von der Leyen, was to try and call China's bluff a bit on this and say, hey, there's some areas we can work with here. If you want to talk about territorial sovereignty, if you want to talk about security of nuclear power plants and things like that, well, what does that mean? Can we push you a bit harder on that? Is that something we can translate into some sort of initiative? I don't think people really expect China to do that, but I think they also don't want to allow China to be able to say, well, we put a peace proposal forward and it was dismissed out of hand. So I think there's a certain amount of political games playing on this, but I think people do want to put China under pressure on this and don't want to give them the opening to say that they're a peace actor, given the stance that Xi Jinping has really taken on this and the backing that he continues to extend to Putin.
Yeah, look, diplomacy is difficult, and obviously everybody wants to be delicate, considering there is an ongoing war at the middle of all of this. Andrew Small, thank you very much.